In this lesson, I want to teach you guys about the next steps for supplier outreach and vetting. So after you've found about 10 or maybe even more factories that you'd be willing to purchase your goods from, I recommend you go ahead and put them into the Jungle Scout Supplier Tracker. After that, we need to find their contact information and then reach out to them and start asking them different questions, all right? So there's a few different ways to go about finding contact information, but typically just from clicking search for contact info, doing a Google search, you're able to find them usually like in the first, second, third results, all right? And then I usually just go in here, I just try to find contact us. And then here's some of their information. So we could go ahead and put their contact information in here if we wanted to do so. So, you can either write down all the contact information if you would like. Alternatively, you can just write whatever ones you care about. So their email is not listed, but this is, so I'm just gonna put the little form. As far as nickname, this is helpful sometimes, especially because a lot of the Chinese names are hard to remember. So I'm just gonna call them Health Products for You. And then let's go ahead and grab their phone number out of here. All right, so I found that one, easy enough. Let's go ahead and just do kind of like one or more others. So search for contact info. So, global sources, that's similar to an Alibaba. This next one should be their real website. Telephone, I usually don't call, but we'll go ahead and put it in there anyway. So I'm gonna add their contact info. Let's see, no other contact information. Their email is blank. So the next thing I would do is I would go check them out on Alibaba or Global Sources and see if they list more contact information on there, which a lot of times they will. So phone number again, like I said, I usually don't call. So let's try another one. Let's try going to Alibaba and searching for it there. Suppliers. Looks like they're not on Alibaba. Sometimes you can also just type like email. It looks like, here we go. That's what we're looking for. All right, so this is the email, which is usually how I go about contacting them. But it's also usually good in China, the number one method of communication is WeChat. And it is actually good to go ahead and write down their WeChat because that's how they're gonna wanna contact with you, whether you want to or not. This is their WeChat right here. And then if you have once you install the WeChat app on your phone, you can scan this little QR code and it will automatically add them. So I'm just gonna copy that and paste it in here real quick because that's how they're gonna wanna communicate. And all good. So just spend the next few minutes just doing this. It's usually pretty painless. Little bit of searching around, you can usually find them pretty easily. Sometimes you'll end up finding their contact information on Alibaba, which is fine. If they don't have it listed on Alibaba, oftentimes you'll have to use Alibaba's messaging platform to contact them, which is kind of a hassle, but not that big of a deal. But I'm gonna go ahead and grab their mobile phone out of here. And was there any other information we wanted? Not really. If we do want to message them, we'll have to do it through here because Alibaba won't give you like their email address. So in the email field, I'm just gonna, again, put a link to this particular contact page. All right, so that's how I go about finding the contact information for my factories. I prefer to not message them through the Alibaba messaging platform. I used to use the Alibaba messaging platform a lot more, but it's so clunky and so frustrating to work with, and the factories typically don't like communicating through it either. If you want to, feel free to use the Alibaba messaging platform. It will probably get to them, but you'll know what I'm talking about after you try to use it, that it's just like extremely just clunky and frustrating, and they're always opening new tabs and you can't find where you're communicating with them at, and the supplier is always going to ask you to start using something different anyway. So if I were to like rank them, I would say email's number one, probably Alibaba's messaging platform is number two for this initial purpose. And then the like text message or WeChat or WhatsApp would be after that. After establishing this initial communication, it's common to switch over to WeChat to communicate with them. But in this initial outreach, I prefer email. When you're doing the outreach, I would recommend that you don't use your like primary email. And the reason for this is when you're reaching out to a bunch of factories, it feels like you always get put on their like marketing lists that are oftentimes kind of hard to get off of. So it's best if you have a separate email to use just for this purpose so you don't clog up your inbox. A work email is better than like a personal Gmail or Hotmail or whatever else is that you use. It's fine to use Gmail or something like that, but by using like a work email or something with a domain that's different than just like a free email account like Gmail, it'll give you a little bit of an added level of professionalism. After you've found their contact information, if I have their email or if I'm messaging them through Alibaba's messaging platform, I send them a template I send them an outreach that looks something similar to this, all right? And I'll just walk you through this a little bit. What I'm trying to get out of this email is, one, I want to introduce myself and my business. Sometime you'll hear some people say like, all right, if you're like just like a little one-man show, like maybe try to make yourself sound a little bit bigger than you really are. I don't know if I really believe in that. I more so believe in just always just kind of like telling the truth, but choose as you wish there. So tell them more about yourself and the business. Tell them more about how you plan on distributing the product or any other information. What we're trying to do in these first two areas is build a level of credibility with them, let them know that we're serious. Then we're gonna wanna tell them what we wanna order and really specific product details, the number of units. We're gonna ask them whether or not they're a trading company or a manufacturer. And then we want details around lead times, their ability to deliver, when they'd be able to do it, and then of course, costs. So a few tips I have for you here is, of course there's gonna be a language barrier, especially if you're communicating with people in China, but really any other region of the world that doesn't speak the same language that you do, or that's not their native language. So by giving pictures, like the saying's picture's worth 1,000 words, by giving them a picture, it's very clear what you're looking for. Not only that, but if you explain the changes you'd like to make to your product on that picture, that even helps more. And I'll give another tip around that in a minute. It's also very helpful to ask your questions in a numbered list. It just makes it more clear. The clearer you can make your messaging, the clearer you can expect your responses to be. And because we're going to be gauging the quality of the response off, we're going to be gauging them on the quality of the response of whether or not we would like to work for them. So in here, I'm saying the dimensions, the any changes. I'm straight up asking them, are you a manufacturer or are you a trading company? Please give me a quote, lead time, cost of a sample, what kind of packaging do you typically do with this product, and if that includes any type of kind of like private labeling, all right? So these are the questions I have in this particular example, and we'll include a link to this somewhere near this video. If these aren't the only questions to answer, these are some that I commonly use. However, one thing I really like about Jungle Scout is inside of quotes, there's this little link down here that says download questions. And it's really awesome because there's a whole bunch of different example questions in here that you can ask, okay? So something that I like to do is I like to kind of like read through this list and decide like, okay, which of these do I care about? Which of these are important? I will say, you know, like on the first email, I probably wouldn't ask more than like 5 or 6 questions, so don't go too crazy with it. But do feel like you could ask all these different questions like throughout the communication, negotiating type process. This is a great place to get these sample questions. So after putting together my document or my template, I'm going to email the same template, the same template, the same communication I put together to all the different factories. And I like doing this because it lets you really compare like apples to apples, the different responses that you're getting from these different factories. Because at this point, we are trying to vet these different factories. So we're not only vetting them on price and quality of goods, of course, but we also want to vet them on their ability to communicate, how quickly they get back to us, and just like the feeling essentially that we get from working with them. So by asking everyone the same set of questions, we're kind of like giving them all like an equal opportunity to put their best foot forward in the first communication. So that's why I like to do it. Now, if you can't find a factory's email address, or if they're not in Alibaba and you first contact them through WeChat, you're not, you know, WeChat's more like a text messaging type service. So you're not going to ask all these questions in like the first text message, right? You'd be more so asking them kind of one at a time. So, but you can still probably get an idea of what they're like to work with. So, yeah, we'll include this template when you are somewhere near this video. I encourage you to fill it out with whatever specific questions you have and email it to all of the different factories. If you can't find their email, I recommend probably Alibaba messaging after that. If they're not on Alibaba, then I'd probably recommend WeChat after that. I told you I'd give you one other tip as far as the picture goes, so I'll do that right now. What I like to do if there's any changes or I'm trying to communicate any differences from maybe what they typically make or what I commonly see, I like to draw it using one of these. I use Snagit, but there's a bunch of little software tools like this. For example, if I wanted one that had like an iPad, I would just quickly just draw something up just like this. So, you know, like I'm not a good drawer by any means, but like pretty quickly you can do something that looks like this, you know, that's like 14 inches, or even better, give it to them in centimeters if you're communicating with China. So like 35 centimeters. And you know, maybe something similar over here. Oops, let's try again. So that's something like that, and say, okay, this one is 12 centimeters. And you know, maybe I point to this and I say, you know, edges should be rounded. And like just like anything else you can really think of that makes it clear the differences that you're looking for, or any like specifics around your particular product, okay? So trying to describe things like this just through text, just through written email is quite difficult to do, but really drawing it out on a photo and making it, you know, look like this, just makes it way easier to be very crystal clear about what you're expecting from the factory, all right? I took this template and I went ahead and modified it for the yard signs, okay? So I'll go ahead and just walk you through this a little bit. I said, hey, my name's Greg Mercer. I'm the purchasing manager for Juggle Creations. I'm looking for a yard sign with an H stake to sell in the US market. I've attached some photos. Our primary sales channels, online marketplaces. I gave them a rough estimate of how many units I think I could sell per year. This stat might be padded a little bit to hopefully get me kind of favorable pricing, but you don't want to bend this too much. And I told them to start off, I'd like to order around 500 to 1,000 pieces. So I gave them the product specifications, and I think you heard me talk about this a little bit earlier during the product selection phase, that I think it'd be beneficial to make this particular sign or the particular package a little bit smaller so that I don't have to pay oversized storage fees. Instead, I could pay standard size storage fees. So I went ahead and gave them the specifications of what it would take in order to get it down to that size. I also converted those from inches into centimeters just because, in China, they work on the metric system. So it's just easier for them to read and communicate to the factory and easier for them to work with in general. So I gave exact product specifications from the size to the type of the steel rod to the size and thickness of the plastic sign. I got these thickness dimensions from the products on Amazon that were rated well. So the signs that were rated well were 4 millimeters thick. The steel H frames that were rated well were 9 gauge galvanized steel. So that's just what I put on here. And then for packaging, I gave some more specifics. I said I want a brown cardboard box with black printing on one side. And then I made some really pretty images here that I'm quite proud of. Joking a little bit, but also not joking because these are very effective for getting the point across of exactly what you're looking for. So the first one, it says image 1 is the H stake. I showed them what I want it to look like. Metal rods, 9 gauge galvanized steel. I gave the height and the width, and that's the same height and width that you see up here in the product specifications. Now, image 2, corrugated white plastic sign. I did something similar here. I gave the exact dimensions that I was looking for. I also included this little picture because it makes it very clear what a corrugated plastic sign is. So honestly, even if they didn't know any English, they could probably figure out, what I'm looking for just from these photos. The last image is a brown box. There are lots of different types of boxes, lots of different types of packaging. To be honest, I was just searching on Google for brown box to just put the dimensions on it. If you do that, you'll see there's tons of different types of packaging and boxes. I ultimately chose this style because what I was thinking is, if you were to stack those plastic signs on top of each other with like those H frames on top of each other, and as you'll see, they're both 44 by 34 centimeters. What would happen is, if you made this box the perfect size, they wouldn't like rattle or shake around at all, right? As you can imagine, they'd just be like stacked on top of each other, yay thick. That's how tall the box would be. And it'd be nice packaging. It would protect the goods and it wouldn't rattle around. I just said black printing on one side. Sometimes when I launch products on Amazon, I spend quite a bit of time or effort into the packaging to make it like this high quality, nice looking packaging. For this particular product, I'm under the assumption that most people don't really care what the packaging looks like. For anything that's going to be like given as a gift, or you want to give the appearance of like this high-end or really high-quality brand, or if you feel like people will think that's really important, then I usually spend a little bit of extra money on the packaging. For yard signs, my gut feeling tells me that most people don't really care about that much. So I'm going to go for something that's more inexpensive. And let's go back up to the rest of my outreach. So I said, I'm currently interviewing new suppliers and I have a few questions. I straight up asked them, are you a manufacturer or a trading company? I think I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but a trading company is someone who just works as a intermediary between the customer purchasing the goods and the factory. I prefer not to work with trading companies whenever possible. A, because I can usually save a little bit of money by not working with them, but B, because it usually makes communication a little bit harder because I have to go through a middleman. I then asked for FOB pricing, which means free on board. This is the most typical type of Incoterms that we'll cover a little bit more in the shipping section. But this pretty much just means that they're in charge of manufacturing it and getting it to the port to load onto a boat. So I asked for free on board pricing I wanted pricing for 3 different packs. So 1 pack with 3 signs and stands, 1 pack with 5 signs and stands, and 1 pack with 10 signs and stands. I don't know which one I'm gonna sell, but if the 5 is only like 25 cents more than the 3-pack and the 10's only 50 cents more than the 5-pack or whatever, that would probably influence my decision ultimately what I want to sell, because I can probably sell a 10-pack for quite a bit more than a 3-pack. And my feeling is all these are going to be relatively inexpensive, so it might actually not be that much of a price difference. So I said, I would like the pricing for 500 packs. And I'm asking what the lead time is, both for the sample as well as the order. The cost to ship the sample to Austin, Texas, where I live. I also asked them the preferred method of communication. They'll probably come back with their WeChat, which is fine. I can communicate with them through there. And that's it. So like I said, there are a bunch of other questions you can sort or you can search through here to see if there's any other questions that pertain to your particular product. For me, I feel like this is a really good start, and I will definitely be starting to judge the quality of these different factories based off of their response to this. So as a quick recap, a few of the things that I strongly recommend when you're reaching out to all of them: email if possible. My second choice is probably Alibaba messaging. After that would be the text or WeChat or any of those. I encourage you to introduce yourself. Business relationships are quite important, especially in China. So they will be looking for that. Give them a little bit of background about your business. Be as specific as possible when you're describing exactly what you want. I strongly recommend that you use pictures and put your specifications directly on those pictures. I also strongly encourage the questions that you ask to be in a numbered list. That makes it very easy to respond to each one of them. And then after that, I'm going to shoot off this same template, or this same outreach to all the different factories that I've found. And I'll let you guys know once they get back to me, and we will analyze some of the responses together and go from there. Thanks.